Hey everyone, I'm Charting Man Dan with the Chart Guys. It's Super Bowl week for earnings with some of our major names coming up to report in the NASDAQ, and it's also our last full trading week before the election. Let's talk about plays that will be impacted most significantly by the election and what I'm looking for here in the short term. Before we get into it, this Thursday at 5 p.m., Lamont's going to be doing a webinar about volume profile, doing some Q&A, and interacting with you all as he goes over his trading style, which I have gotten more familiar with the last couple of years and started incorporating some of that into my trading style as well. So certainly something to check out and not miss. So we're going to talk S&P 500 and NASDAQ first, and then we'll go on into the election, uranium names, and on from there. So S&P 500 started weekly consolidation last week, and the big question is, can the bears confirm a daily downtrend? We start weekly consolidation. That's one little check mark for bears. Next check mark, can we confirm the lower high and lower low? As of right now, the answer is no, not yet. But there is still a very clear resistance level up at the all-time high that we are battling around, and we have not broken that yet. So watching closely, and here it is on SPY, can the bears break 574.42 support to confirm the daily downtrend for further weekly consolidation? And again, that's definitely on the table, dependent on NASDAQ earnings for the most part. Again, we've got Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta. We got everything this week. And we know the NASDAQ is going to have a significant reaction, and we know the S&P 500 is most likely going to do what the NASDAQ does to a certain degree. So here's the NASDAQ. Weekly consolidation last week. Bit of a V-shaped recovery on Friday. And this is a potential rising wedge. So if it's a bearish earnings reaction to all these names, I'm going to be watching this to potentially follow through a bit more significantly. You could have had it like this and it broke bear and now we're back testing it, or you can draw it from the most recent support level. But either way, we know there's still a battle going on. This is the daily time frame, and we could say not a ton has changed in the last 2.5 weeks of trading with this sideways chop. And so right now in the short term, I'm watching for a potential 4-hour tightening range. High of Friday, low of Friday afternoon, lower high pre-market. Can the bulls form a higher low and just tighten up into these earnings results? So if we see some green overnight tonight, we'll have a nice tightening 4-hour range. And again, what stood out today was NASDAQ giving back all of its pre-market gains, but the financial sector was going inverse and had a big day up over 1%. We'll look at that in just a moment. So pretty much I feel the market is in wait and see mode for all these big names over the next pretty much Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are going to be the big earnings reactions. So now let's talk election. A lot of the election trades take place in the run-up into the election, and those trades have already played out. And that's my focus was the cannabis sector and TCNNF for the election run-up. We'll talk about that a bit. But the next question is, what do we get in the final week? You know, are we going to get profit taking in some names that have been running? And what do we get after the election? And so I'm just looking at really the next 2 weeks of trading. And the most impacted names with the election in the current setup are, number one, DJT. The bull Trump side is DJT and Geo and private prisons. The bull Kamala side is TAN, the solar sector, and cannabis pretty much goes to both because both have come out in favor. Number one, I don't care at all who you're voting for. Number two, my trading has completely separated for what I want to happen as Dan an individual. Dan the trader approaches markets one way, Dan the individual approaches the election and things like that a different way. You have to detach. Otherwise, you are trading emotionally and will likely lose money. Who's going to win? These betting markets, I don't really trust. Yes, there's a lot of dollar volume going around, but, as far as I'm concerned, it can go either way with where we stand right now. And we could say that Trump has gained probability in the last few weeks, maybe the last month we'll call it, both in terms of those probability markets going up in his favor, as well as, perhaps the polling a bit in his favor. So the run-up that we've seen over the last 3-4 weeks is favoring the Trump stocks, like DJT. DJT, in my opinion, is just a short squeeze in combination of the shift that took place a month ago. This name was absolutely crushed. The shares are going to be unlocked and Trump's going to dump everything. And, this name's going to zero. And here we are now up 300% and in a short squeeze, very clearly. The amount of dollar volume traded today was something like $4 billion, well over the size of the market cap. So these shares are just churning. People are using this as a trading vehicle just to trade this hype and momentum. And I'm looking for a temporary top because this is shaping up to be a sell the news. The risk and reward at these levels does not favor long, even if Trump wins. So risk reward favors the bears. Why? Because if Trump loses, this stock's going to dump in the short term. If Trump wins, it's potentially set up for a sell the news event. Now, we still have 6 trading days until we get results. So, if we pull back the next 6 trading days, it's a much different setup going into the actual vote than what I'm talking about in this moment. But we are extremely overextended. We had a gap up into continuation today. I'm watching for a volume climax. I hope we gap up tomorrow because I want to look short. And I want to, I traded this gap up open short and I had a really good day. And I didn't long it in afterwards, which in hindsight obviously was the next play. But I'm just looking for a temporary top to be set. Look at the 2-day time frame. We don't have a 2-day uptrend. We don't have a weekly uptrend. And we are in a monthly downtrend. Well, we're looking for a monthly lower high. Anything under 79.38. So again, this is a short squeeze scouting a temporary top. And I hope it is with a gap up open tomorrow. How am I going to look to a top? I'm not just going to scale into a short squeeze. That's how you get blown up. I'm going to look for a level where I'm going to say that's either the temporary top or I'm wrong. And I'm going to know real quick if I'm wrong or not. And if I'm wrong, I'll have a very acceptable loss. And if I'm right, I'll have a solid win. And my target will be, daily consolidation and potentially towards hourly oversold. But we're still in back burner mode where 5-minute oversold is a back burner, 15-minute oversold is a back burner, and hourly. So if I'm short and we're getting those things, I take some profit into those back burner setups. But again, I'm just sharing what I'm going to be doing because at this point, I do not feel there is much meat on the bone left for bulls to make gains in the short term. Again, pull back for a few days, cool off, set a daily high or low into the election after a 20% drop from the highs, very different setup. But as of right now, temporary top is on watch for a sell the news event. Geo has also been going up the last 5 weeks, though a lot less significantly. If we look at the monthly time frame, anything under 1805 is a monthly lower high here. But again, this is, essentially we back tested previous resistance, now support. And this is Lamont's volume profile style. But resistance, support. And so that's a good sign for the bulls. And again, this is the last 5 weeks is the reshifting of probabilities, in my opinion, with Trump becoming a bit more probable than where we were 5 weeks ago. And that's why these 2 names have had a really good 5 weeks. Solar sector has been extremely weak for years and years and years. This is just a slow bleed, nothing going on at all chart. And we have a weekly bounce underway. It's been choppy. It's falling wedge-like in the sense that, the bear breaks are starting to lack some follow through. What I like about this setup is an underdog. Right now, if the market is pricing in a Trump win, if Harris were to win, I would expect TAN to have a solid 20% move in response to that. Not necessarily in one day, but it has been so beat up. And again, the probabilities are have been shifting the last 5 weeks to favor Trump more. I do believe that there would be more meat on the bone for this trade post-election than anything else that we're going to be looking at here. So I'm keeping an eye out for it. And again, I'm not going to enter this pre-election, but you better believe that if Harris were to win the next day, I'm looking long TAN. And just look at the 12-month chart. This is every year is a candle. We shot up into the 2020 election and a bit beyond that. The broader market was extremely strong as well, post-CVID. But we went up like 800%, and then we pulled back like 60 whatever percent. So I'm looking for a 12-month higher low, 70% pullback. I'm looking for a 12-month higher low compared to the base down in the teens. There is no sign of it forming right now, but it'll be a longer term, higher low attempt if the 2-week falling wedge plays out. But again, it's going to depend on the results, because if Trump wins, I don't expect a whole lot of upside in the solar sector. I'm not going to talk much about cannabis just because I've been doing the solo videos for it. I'm going to do a live stream about cannabis. My internet just came back for the first time in a month after the hurricane, but it's still in and out. I'm going to try and do a live stream tomorrow afternoon. We'll say 2 p.m. Nope, sooner. 1 p.m. 1 p.m. Eastern, if my internet's good to go. And we'll talk about cannabis. I'll take questions. But this was the trade for me in the election, was the run up here into the vote, into the Florida vote that's going to be taking place. So I've been long for months. The trade's already been made. I'm taking profit. I'm already out 20% the position, and I'm looking to take more profit before the vote. It's trying to be a daily bull flag, but again, I'll talk about that more tomorrow. Uranium, still extremely strong. SMR, beautiful bull flag, new all-time high. Monster day today for uranium again. You've got names. I mean, this bull market is starting to get that fervor of 100%ers, where this name is now up 200% in a month and a half or whatever. We didn't even get to hourly oversold, back burner on this pullback. Bulls bought the dip that aggressively. OKLO, the other one, daily bull flag confirmed. Big volume, big follow through, big gains. This name's up almost 500% in the last month and a half. IONQ is supercomputing. Look at that run. 200% in the last month and a half. I'm watching for a temporary top here as well, tomorrow or Wednesday. But then back burners are on the table. First hourly oversold. So there's definitely a lot of interest in the market. Bitcoin's battling 70,000 again, trying to reach 3-4 month highs. So there's still plenty of bull action in the market, even though the broader market hasn't done much. S&P 500 and NASDAQ have not done much in the last 5 weeks. These little pockets have done a lot. And so uranium, back burners back on the table, daily uptrend our guide, blue sky breakout, where bulls can flex their wings. Back to the major sectors. Healthcare, I've been keeping an eye on this channel. I'm not trading it, I'm just observing. But clearly, this is the weakest major sector over the last bunch of months. We're looking for a monthly high or low, and there's no sign of it shaping up at this point. It's been leading the way down this month. XLF, as I mentioned, big bull day today. Just an inside bar. I'm watching for an equilibrium here. If we fail 47.42, I'm watching for something like this. But I'm still short here because I had a really good entry on the gap up top. I exited 2/3 of my position into the pullback, and now I've got a risk-free stop up over the all-time high. And I'm either going to take profit on the rest of the position at weekly EMA 12 with another leg down, or I'm going to get stopped out my runner and have a green trade overall. But that's a bit of my protection. And so, it's A-okay to be having protection in this current market environment. As I keep saying, I'm bullish. I'm not going to nail the top in this market because I'm just riding the uptrends on the longer term time frames, and they will eventually be lost. And by the time that becomes clear on the charts, it won't be at the top. But again, anybody trying to nail the top this year, it's been much better to just go long. So I'm going to continue doing what's been working. I am a little bit protective, but it's just the battle. Does the NASDAQ get an all-time high or not is really what we're boiling down to. Is it an all-time high or is it a monthly lower high to tighten up? And that's going to be, obviously, the earnings reactions are going to play a major impact in answering that question. But in the meantime, again, I'm just day trading uranium, DJT. There's so much volatility. GME today woke up with a 10% day. Now we go to the weekly equilibrium on GME. This has been tightening up for the last 2 months. Anything under 23.64, just a lower high. But eventually this tightening weekly range is going to break one direction or the other, and we're going to have significant volatility in GME again. So there's plenty of day trading opportunity elsewhere while letting the swing trades try and play out a bit more significantly. So XLF confirmed a daily downtrend with 0 follow through. I'm just watching the weekly inside bars. IWM just chopping sideways. The resistance zone is very clear in the 227s. Anything under that is just a lower high. Not much going on here. Again, I just don't see any strength in IWM when it's not a big bull XLF day. The relationship this year has been IWM is pretty much just a leveraged version of the financial sector in both directions. The dollar, still looking for a top. We have a double top short term here, but it's only going to be meaningful if we break 103.93, the low of Friday. Then we'll zoom out and look for an eventual weekly higher low, but definitely looking for weekly consolidation in the dollar. That said, I've been looking for weekly consolidation in the dollar the last couple of weeks. I haven't been making trades based off of it. Fortunately, the metals, where my positions are, have been holding up just fine, but I want the dollar to top. And it has not done so yet. Gold, still just fine. Daily bull flag right under all-time highs. Silver, slightly weaker, but it's looking for a daily higher low as well. No major red flags. The miners were hurt more. They had earnings from a major name. I forget off the top of my head which one. One of the largest holdings, but Thursday that was a bearish reaction. So there is space for a potential daily lower high in these miners the next bounce. And I'm going to be taking some profit in some miners. Pretty much right now I got miners and silver as the majority of my metals exposure. And I will be taking some GD or some NUGT off next daily bounce. Oil had a big drop with no escalation over the weekend. But again, I don't have a read on oil as far as most likely scenarios and confidence with it chopping around sideways right now. So I'm not even going to look at it. But that's that. I hope you're well. Do good things. Thursday, Lamont live stream. Tomorrow, trying for 1 p.m. cannabis live stream. And we'll see what we get into the election. Temporary top on DJT on watch.